We are here this morning to announce a significant development in a case that has long held the attention of this community. The case that we have known for the last 44 years as Visalia Ransacker, and most tragically for the murder of Claude Snelling on September 11, 1975, as he intervened to save his daughter, who was being kidnapped by the ransacker from her home in the early morning hours on that date. Between April 1974 and December 1975, the city of Visalia suffered a string of approximately 100 residential burglaries. At the time, Visalia police detectives believed that the same suspect was responsible for all of those burglaries, and the series of crimes was dubbed the Visalia Ransacker. These crimes and the manner in which they were committed brought fear to this quiet community during the 18-month period in which the Visalia Ransacker terrorized this city in the mid-1970s. The ransacker targeted a specific geographical area within the city of Visalia, where he would break into homes in the evening hours by prying open doors or windows to get into the residences. The ransacker didn't steal items of high value, rather would take collectibles, keepsake items, or photos, and he would leave valuable jewelry and take costume jewelry instead, or would take one earring from a pair, leaving the other behind. As the name implies, the ransacker would also rifle through belongings and remove items from drawers and leave them strewn about the residence. The ransacker would leave items next to doors or on doorknobs to serve as a warning system to alert him to returning residents, and at times was known to eat or prepare food in the victims' residences during his crimes. There are a few occasions where the victims of ransacker burglaries would receive strange phone calls weeks after the burglaries had occurred. The ransacker was very elusive, and investigations revealed that he likely prowled locations in victims' residences prior to committing those crimes. He likely planned escape routes for his crimes and oftentimes used a bicycle as a means of travel. In the early morning hours of September 11, 1975, Claude Snelling awoke to a sound in his residence in the 500 block of South Whitney in the city of Visalia, and he got up to investigate. Snelling encountered an unknown suspect near his carport area and discovered that the suspect was attempting to kidnap his juvenile daughter. Victim Snelling confronted the suspect, who then produced a handgun, ultimately shooting and killing victim Snelling. The suspect then immediately fled the area. It was later determined that the gun used to kill victim Snelling was a gun that had been stolen during one of the previous Visalia Ransacker residential burglaries that occurred in August of 1975. The bicycle that was believed to help Snelling's killer escape the crime scene was recovered a block away from the Snelling residence on the morning of September 12, 1975, and it was learned that that bike had been stolen from a nearby yard on September 9, 1975, 2 days before the murder. The investigation of the Snelling homicide led officers to believe that the ransacker was in fact Claude Snelling's killer. On the evening of December 10, 1975, Visalia police officers and detectives were conducting surveillance details in an attempt to capture the Visalia ransacker. During one of the details, a Visalia police officer, Detective McGowan, observed a suspicious person entering the backyard of a residence in the 1500 block of West Cahuilla. As Detective McGowan confronted that suspect, the suspect produced a handgun and fired at the officer, striking his flashlight. Detective McGowan received moderate injuries as a result of that incident, and the suspect was able to flee the area and elude capture on that evening. During this incident, Detective McGowan saw the suspect's face and was ultimately able to provide a very detailed description and a composite sketch of the suspect. After that night, the crime spree abruptly ended, and no further crimes were attributed to the Visalia ransacker in the city of Visalia. On April 25, 2018, the Sacramento County Sheriff's Department and the Sacramento County District Attorney's Office announced the arrest of 72-year-old Joseph James DeAngelo, who they identified as the Golden State Killer. The Visalia Police Department has long believed that the Visalia ransacker crime spree from 1974 to 1975 is linked to the Golden State Killer cases. This belief was supported by the very specific MOs used by the Visalia ransacker that were shared by the Golden State Killer. With the arrest of Joseph James DeAngelo, Visalia police detectives had new information to work with to further the long active investigation into the ransacker cases and the Snelling homicide. With DeAngelo's arrest, we know that Joseph DeAngelo was working as a police officer in the city of Exeter from May of 1973 to August of 1976, a period of time in which the ransacker cases were occurring in the city of Visalia and at the time of the Snelling homicide. The Visalia crimes abruptly ended in December of 75, and only a few months later, the East Area rapist crimes began in the Sacramento area, occurring between 1976 and 1979 in that jurisdiction. Beginning at the same time, Joseph DeAngelo moved to the East Sacramento area as an Auburn police officer after leaving the Exeter Police Department in 1976. Since DeAngelo's arrest, Visalia Police Department detectives have been recontacting victims and witnesses from the original investigation in an attempt to gather more information. Based on the information that detectives were able to gather, we have identified Joseph James DeAngelo as the sole suspect in the Visalia Ransacker crime series and the murder of Claude Snelling. While there is no DNA in the Visalia cases, the hard work of determined investigators over the course of the last 44 years, who never gave up in the pursuit of justice for the Ransacker victims and the Snelling family, has paid off and led to this moment. We are confident, through the information obtained from victims and witnesses, through thorough examination of specific modus operandi in these cases, through the development of physical evidence, and by linking a firearm stolen from the Ransacker burglary that was used in the Claude Snelling murder, that Joseph DeAngelo is the man responsible for these crimes.